And we are live with Ring the Bell podcast number 9. Today we have some absolutely great fights to talk about. I'm here with my co-host Nathan. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not bad, not bad at all. In fact, I am actually quite good indeed. So massive boxing card in England this weekend. I'm not even really that interested in touching on some of the other fights that happened around the world. We are going to kick it off with a fight I'm not sure you will have seen, but Jamie Cox stopped Harry Matthews. Did you catch that one?
I didn't happen to catch it. Was it good?
No, it was an expected win over a guy who was 15 and 25. So it wasn't anything special. That's why I
Okay.
didn't think many people would have seen that one because
Why is he fighting a guy at this level?
I think to get a win so that they can put him in some interim title fight for his next fight.
Is he still pretty highly ranked then?
Yeah, and he wants to fight John Ryder next, which I think is a good fight. I think it's already
I
signed.
don't.
I actually think that fight's
Yeah,
already
I
signed.
think it is.
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't understand how he can be in a good position when he got knocked out in 4 rounds.
It's a good question, but when you get knocked out in 4 rounds by the number one in the division, yeah, he's still ranked 8th in Britain and 40th in the world. So that it's not terrible, is it? You know, there's people.
No.
Jesus Christ! Somehow Paul Smith is still ranked 55th in the world.
You're joking.
No, and David Brophy's up at 47. So Jamie Jamie Cox being at 39 seems about right. I actually would like to see him versus Vijender Singh.
How good is Vijender Singh then?
Yeah, he's all right. He's 10-0. He's only beaten.
Moses
Oh,
Chica.
he's beaten nobody's really. Yeah, Francis Checker was his biggest win. Uh, Arguably, Kerry Hope was quite a good win. But other than that, he's not really fought much in the way of opposition, so it's hard to tell. But it's a good fight. It would show us which, the winner of that could go on, and the loser probably has to have a second look at their career. But he's already signed to fight John Ryder, and I don't know if he'll beat John Ryder because
I'm not so sure.
John Ryder's actually very good boxer. He's had some stupid losses down at middleweight when he was cutting weight. But since he moved up and got that knockout over Patrick Nielsen was a pretty big win. And so, the loss to Rocky Fielding was an odd one, but I thought that was quite a close fight anyway. I'd actually be interested to see the rematch. For if John Ryder beats Jamie Cox, I'd be really interested to see him fight Rocky Fielding again.
That would be a good fight. I mean,
I think he'd win the rematch. I think it was a close fight the first time round, and I think, there's a couple of guys he's lost to that I'd be really interested to see him rematch. Jack Armfield is another one.
I think Ryder's kind of upped his game a little bit, hasn't he, in his last couple of fights?
Yeah, well, specifically the Patrick Nielsen win was a huge win. Nielsen at the time, he's ranked 54th now, but he was ranked quite high at the time that he got beat. So, you have to give some credit to Ryder. I hope we see the Scotty Cardle, the Jamie Cox fight, and I hope personally. I think John Ryder will come through it. I kind of hope he does too. I just think he's got a bit more upside from his last performance than Cox has.
Yeah, I mean, it will be close.
It is a good fight. Yeah, it's a very good fight. So that was just a lowdown on the card fight, but there's some interesting. The reason I wanted to talk about it was because there's all that interesting stuff attached to it. So yeah, Anthony Fowler got a win on the card. I didn't see that one. Apparently, it's quite a good stoppage, so fair play to him. Chris Congo won on points, 6-rounder. Not really sure what to make of him. He looks skilled. He looks good, but welterweight.
What weight was this?
He's a welterweight, and that's a tough division to crack. And so they just need to keep building him he's a bit of an odd guy because he's 25 and he's 8-0. So they really need to get a bit of a move on with him now. He needs to get. I'd say he needs to fight 5 more times this year, really.
To make it worth his while.
To,
It's hard
well,
to
just
match
to get
guys.
him that experience, because otherwise,
What level does he look to you?
he's at the moment he's fighting low level guys, so it's really hard to tell. He could be good. He's got some skills about him, but they need to get him. He's just had a very stop start. You know, he had 2 fights in 2016, and then he had a load in 2017. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so he needs another 5 fights this year so that they can get him, you know, the experience so that he's ready for title fights next 2019. But he's good. He looks a prospect. He looks all right. It's hard to judge. That's what I mean with him. The guy he beat was 6-5, so you can't really judge. Can't really judge. Derek Chisora.
Sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, go on if you've got something to say.
No, sorry, because it was completely irrelevant to what we were going to talk about.
Fair enough. Derek Chisora, quite a brutal knockout of Zakaria Azuzi, who, you know, is not the greatest heavyweight in the world, but I think that punch would have knocked out a lot of guys anyway.
Oh, yeah, it was a good knockout.
So, you know, a good win for Derek Chisora. He comes back, but we're going to have a little discussion of Derek Chisora right now because he is an odd fucking man. He is an odd guy with odd ambitions, and I don't understand where he comes from a lot of the time. So obviously you've seen all this beef with Joe Joyce.
I have,
we discussed it, and we discussed it a lot. And so Derek Chisora is definitely pricing himself out of this fight and ducking Joe Joyce. I think we can say that is true at this point.
He doesn't want the fight.
He doesn't want the fight. He wants to fight guys like Azuzi and hopefully get himself some sort of lucky world title shot or big money fight. So
I think he's making a good career move here, not fighting Joe Joyce, because it would have been the end of it.
I agree. Really? I agree entirely. But the problem is, right, who's he going to beat now? Like, he wants to fight Takam, right? Now, that's an all right fight. It's an all right fight. But Takam might well beat Chisora.
Takam will.
Takam's probably better than Caballero, right? It's close, isn't it? It's you know, that would be a good fight, Takam versus Caballero.
I don't understand this man's mentality.
That's what I'm saying.
World level major money against Joshua to fight Pulev for 80 grand. Then he goes and fights Caballero for 60 grand and
loses those fights as well. Like it would make sense if he went and beat Pulev or if he went and beat Caballero, because then he could demand more money. It would have, but he's lost those fights. So he he takes the hardest path possible, and then
when he loses.
And doesn't even really try. Like in those fights, he didn't even really turn up. So it is.
I mean, you watch him
peculiar.
In his next fight. I can guarantee the rest of this year he'll be fighting bumps.
Well, he says he wants to fight Takam next.
No, he doesn't. If he takes it, he's mad.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's going to get paid more money to fight Takam probably than Joyce. So it's a good payday, but it's a harder fight, probably.
Eddie Hearn needs to sit down with this guy.
I know.
Talk some sense into it.
The thing is, there is no talking to Derek Chisora. He's got his little farm now, where he's got his goats and his chickens. And I don't really think he cares about boxing. I think he just earns a few quid to make his farm better.
He's a millionaire.
I know.
This is the sad thing.
He's a very weird guy, all round. Like, he's just an odd bloke. Did you see the interview after the fight where he's eating 5 burgers?
I saw, I did, and I thought, what's that all about?
He's hungry, but 5? I mean, that's just fucking obscene. 5 guys as well, not small burgers. Big fucking burgers, like, it's crazy.
Why is Chisora living like a normal man, not an athlete? Why does he continue to eat like me or you would eat? I don't get it.
To be fair, a lot of heavyweights can go and eat burgers after their fight. That's not a problem.
Jesus.
But 5 of them is crazy. Like,
I mean, I'd struggle at 2.
I wouldn't get through 2. My stomach shrunk a lot over the last few years. I could probably do 1.5 of those burgers, but 5, fucking hell. But yeah, Chisora's an odd man. He's an odd man. I think that's all you can say on the matter.
For his next 3 or 4 fights, he needs 2 more fights like he fought tonight, and then he'll get a big fight. Then he'll lose again when he fights somebody up again. Have you noticed that's a pattern with his career?
Yeah,
it's a pattern with his career.
It is true. There is an option
that
I think is quite sneaky, right? A lot of people will still want to see that Dillian Whyte rematch, and if Dillian Whyte gets a title somehow, or gets, manages to get Manuel Charles' belt or something like that, then Derek Chisora could get a rematch for a world title out of nowhere.
Do you think it's a possibility that out of thin air, he manages to get Manuel Charles? It wouldn't surprise me if he did.
What, Derek Chisora?
If he managed to get that fight. But obviously then there's the Aquenda.
He's the sort of enigma that kind of would get that fight out of nowhere. But I'll tell you another thing. I wouldn't be all that surprised if Joe Joyce signed to fight the winner of Manuel Charles for Aquenda.
Isn't that crazy that he could get that title shot and he would win it, wouldn't he? Would he?
I think he'd beat both of those guys comfortably. Yeah.
Could you imagine?
He's slow, but so are both of those.
Could you imagine if he won a world title in his 5th fight? That would break all records.
It would be impressive, but it wouldn't be that surprising considering he fought Usyk in the WSB and had a great amateur career. Like, he's 32 already, isn't he? Or 31?
And he's already had a whole career behind him.
That's what I mean. So it wouldn't be that surprising. He's already done his learning. He's already done his debuts. So
I never understood why he never ever turned professional years earlier. I just don't get it.
He wanted that Olympic medal. I'm pretty sure of that.
But he could have been already set up for life by now if he turned pro a little bit earlier.
Yeah, but the amateur games since 2012 have paid well for boxing, obviously, because you see a lot of guys turning professional later rather than turning pro at 21, 22, 23. You're seeing a lot of these guys turn over at 25, 27. How old's Anthony Fowler?
25, I believe.
27.
Is he really old?
Yeah, so he was probably 26 when he turned pro. So that's my point, is the amateurs are probably paying better than they used to, and that's why these guys aren't turning professional so quickly.
But the confrontation, when it happened, should we briefly touch upon that?
Yeah.
How it happened. And,
of course.
I mean, basically, Hay and Joyce went up to Chisora and sort of saying, do you want the fight? And then Chisora says, you pay me £1, whatever, I'll do it for your purse. Which means Chisora is ducking the fight. Then Joe Joyce is sort of like going, looking at him saying, why don't you just take the fight? Basically calling him yellow.
It was interesting, but Chisora does. I mean, he's too old for all that shit now, isn't he? I don't think he gave a shit. I know he was a bit angry and he reacted, but he would have reacted way more 10 years ago, let's say.
Oh, God, yeah. He would have.
And so I just think he just didn't really give a shit too much. Like, it's at the end of the day, he's had so many people call out his name over the course of his career that what's one 3-0 prospect? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's probably how he looks at it, sort of.
But also, I mean,
why would I be scared of Joe Joyce? Do you know, that's probably.
But the way he shut David Hay down, at least I've never quit because of a bad broken toe or anything. I thought that was a bit below the belt, considering that Chisora got his ass whipped by David Hay. I thought that was hilarious.
I suppose so, yeah. I mean, Chisora is one to speak. He's turned up to fights with no heart before as well. So
exactly. I think David Hay.
Chisora's never quit, but he's also shown up sometimes not even ready to fight. So,
but if you want to talk about courage, David Hay's got more courage than Chisora will ever have.
I don't know about
getting through a fight with a broken Achilles heel. If David Hay was fit, I still think he would beat Chisora. Seriously.
Sure, if David Hay was still fit, but that's a big if. And also, you've got I don't believe that either of them are cowards, really. I don't think you can say one is braver than the other. I think you do have to look at the fact that Chisora fought everybody in his career, really. This
But he
is
never won a
really
world
the
title, did he?
first. Sure, but this is really the first time you could ever accuse him of actually ducking someone. And it's
It's the only time.
exactly, and it's because it's a high risk, low reward situation. So you can't really blame him on this one. I think both of them have showed over their career that they both have balls. I don't think courage is lacking. I just think, as you said earlier, it's a very wise business decision.
Oh yeah, you've got. I mean, boxing. You want to get. I mean, the fans. Obviously, we want to see the fights, but then you've got to
Of
look at it.
course, we would gladly
if you were them,
watch
you wouldn't take
Chisora
that.
Joyce. Gladly, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
If you were Chisora, you wouldn't take that fight against Joyce, would you? I wouldn't. If I was Chisora,
no,
I'd get me off.
We already agreed on this. No way. I would take the fight if I knew that I could get myself motivated and angry enough to win or draw. But Chisora sometimes just comes into a fight and does nothing. I was really glad to see that they were talking on the new podcast on Sky Sports. Is it Toe to Toe or something like that?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and Spencer Fearon was saying that he would let Joyce fight Chisora, but you have to be careful because there are two Chisoras, and it really depends which Chisora turns up. And I think that's completely right in any of Chisora's fights. You have to say,
if the one who fought Dillian Whyte turns up, then he's in trouble.
Exactly. If the one who fought Dillian Whyte turns up, then it's a great fight and everyone's going to have a great night. If the one who fought Caballel turns up, it's a stinker and nobody even wants to watch it. So that's
But if you get the Klitschko, if you get the Chisora that fought Klitschko, there's no way Joe Joyce wins.
Sure. But that was how long ago now?
That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think that Chisora exists anymore. I think he's long gone. Sadly. Yeah, 2012. That was 6 years ago. I think that Chisora has been punched out of him by David Haye, Tyson Fury. Even Yakov Gospic had a go at Chisora in that time, and everybody knows if you fight Yakov Gospic, that takes 10 years off your career immediately. Right, anyway, enough of that. Let's move on to the next fight because there were some crackers. Frank Buglioni, Callum Johnson. I know you saw this one.
Wow, I couldn't believe it. What I saw, I couldn't believe what I was watching. No one's ever done that to Buglioni ever.
Arguably,
not in one round. Not in one round.
What did? No, you're right. Buglioni's actually he's only lost on TKO before, and so yeah, you're right. No one's ever really done that to him that convincingly. I'd say Fedor Chudinov beat up Buglioni pretty convincingly, but Callum Johnson, he carries power, man. I was surprised at his power. He caught Buglioni early and often, and Buglioni couldn't recover. That left hook is lethal. It is a lethal weapon. The problem for Callum Johnson is, from what I understand, he's had some real bad luck with family issues over the years.
And he lost his dad.
He's 17-0 and 32 years of age.
And Buglioni's 28. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and so his two best wins are Buglioni and Wilberforce Shehepo. And other than that, they're great wins, but everybody else on his record is a bit of a joke. And so he's a bit unlucky because he's got to be thrown in at the deep end now. And that was a tough fight for him, and he won it. And so great shout for Callum Johnson. He could probably get himself, a decent.
Do you reckon, based on that, he could be Anthony Yard? Based on that?
Right now, if you put them both in together, Callum Johnson is far more experienced than Yard. You have to remember Yard had no amateur pedigree. Callum Johnson won the Commonwealth Youth gold medal.
But don't you find it crazy that Yard is ranked third in the WBO rankings? It's shocking, isn't it? And he didn't have to beat anybody to get there.
It's the Frank Warren. love triangle, isn't it?
Yeah, the
Frank
WBO.
Warren, WBO. You know, they've often been associated with each other. Um, I think it's fair
So,
enough that Anthony Yard is ranked #1 at the moment for British light heavyweights because he's been
yeah,
more active. You
but
know,
he hasn't beaten anyone. This is the whole sad thing.
well, I tell you what,
He's beaten the good fighters.
Sej
Was a
Locker,
good fighter.
that was a good fighter. Other than Sej Locker, he's not really beaten anyone of any note.
No.
I agree.
So
But
we
he
can say
stopped
Anthony
Sej
Yard
Locker.
is hot air at the minute. Really can't. And when you look at it, really, we want to look at it really. If you delve into it properly, he's just hot
Sure,
air and
but I
hype
mean,
at the minute.
Anthony
Good
Yard's
fight.
entire boxing career is 15 fights. Whereas I know for a fact that Callum Johnson had a long amateur career. And so he's had 17 pro fights and all of the amateur schooling. So right now, I wouldn't put Anthony Yard anywhere near Callum Johnson. I
I'd
think
tell you
Anthony
what,
Yard
if I was
gets
Callum
hit
Johnson,
too often to put him in with a power puncher like Callum.
Callum could fight Kara Murat, who is the new IBO light heavyweight champion.
That's a good
And
fight.
I think he could beat him based on that.
Yeah, it's a good fight. It's a good fight. I don't.
They should throw him straight into a minor world title if they can. Yeah.
I mean, right now he's ranked 21 in the light heavyweight division, and so you have to say that's pretty high ranking. You know, it's no joke. I have to imagine that they're going to put him in with someone to get him up into the top 10 as soon as possible.
Oh, they need to. You know, it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame all the breakfast. He could probably fight for a European belt, but I don't know if he's any higher than European level.
Not yet. I'd get him the European belt, get all the IBO, and then I would see how he reacts and does in those fights. And if he wins those convincingly, then he will be ready for a world title. So yeah, it's good. That was a good fight, a great stoppage by Callum Johnson. Not only do I think the referee's stoppage was fair, but the corner threw the towel in at the same time as the stoppage anyway. So that kind of takes away any debate about whether or not the stoppage should have, whether it was early or not. The corner agreed with the referee. So
it's a strange fight. I mean,
yeah, at the end,
I couldn't believe how quick
Buglioni sort of hopping around, showing that he could still fight, but the towel was on the floor behind him, so it doesn't really matter at that point, does it?
I feel sorry for Buglioni because we always said he was going to get beat sooner rather than later.
Especially at that division, because he's always had poor defences. And when he moved up to light heavyweight, I just thought he's a knockout waiting to happen, basically. And he kind of showed that a little bit. I think he could still get the rematch with Hosea Burton. That's an interesting fight for him that's still out there. You know, the Commonwealth title apparently is vacant. So maybe you could put him in with someone. But he's probably lost his Anthony Yard shot now, which I think is stupid.
Oh, God, yeah.
Callum Johnson
he should have just
is
taken
way
that
more
fight.
likely to get the Anthony Yard fight now.
I don't think Frank will want to put him anywhere near Callum.
No,
I really don't.
Not yet, but I think eventually it's a fight that could well happen down the line.
I mean, they've chosen the WBO European. They've chosen to bypass the domestic level, haven't they? Really, with Yard.
Yeah, it's an odd choice because he's not experienced enough to do it, in my opinion.
He should already have British and Commonwealth titles already to his bow.
Yeah. It's been difficult though because they have tried to get him some of those fights, and some people have not been willing to fight him at different times. Look at Buglioni himself; he didn't take that fight. So yes, it's a tricky one. I feel sorry for Buglioni, but he's got a big fan base. I'm sure he can I'm sure he can rebound, come again, and win, and get a win under his belt.
Going back to Frank, wouldn't he? Him and Frank, got miracles with him, title shots.
I think he'd be better off going back down to 168 if he can cut it. But if he can't,
why did he ever go up to light heavyweight? I never understood that.
No. And do you remember he got offered the fight with Kovalev, right? And he turned it down. And it's like, why are you in this division? Because Kovalev might actually be the weakest champion right now.
Yeah.
and you can't even
We know
fight
what would
him.
happen if he took the fight.
I know.
We know what would happen.
I mean, if Callum Johnson's knocking you out, Kovalev's going to plaster you. So,
But
yeah.
let's not get too excited. Callum Johnson is no world beater.
He could be. He could
well
be.
Yeah, he looked like a George Groves type of fighter. He had that sort of potential.
He looks good. He looks classy to me. And to be honest with you, I think if he hadn't had so much bad luck in his career, he might well have picked up a title in that division whilst it wasn't so shit hot. But now that there's so many great champions, it is tricky for him. He's been dealt some bad luck on that front.
Is there a WBO regular belt going around? Who's the WBO regular champion now?
I'm not sure. I'd have to.
Nobody now. I don't think.
I think they might have got rid of that one then, finally.
But as the WBA brought out another cruiserweight regular belt, the WBA will probably suit to follow. For Anthony Yard, I could see that happening.
Shit, man. Don't give them any ideas. Why'd you plant these ideas in their heads? No, my guess is that they're going to scrap all the belts. No, I joke. They're not going to do that because they make too much money off each sanctioning fee. But
anyway, we should
leave that for another time. Another great fight on this card. Lewis Ritson, Scott Cardle. I'm sure you saw this one.
Great fight. Great little scrap. Cardle came out at him, didn't he? He came out and he threw everything but the kitchen sink at him.
Yes, he did.
And Ritson wasn't going anywhere. He soaked up this punishment. He took it.
He did get wobbled a couple of times, Ritson, but I think it was from the shock of Cardle's tactics rather than from any sort of actual power shots. It was the worst tactics from Scott Cardle because they had no idea if Lewis Ritson's chin was any good or not, and they banked everything on it not being good, and they tried to throw the kitchen sink at him. And Ritson said that Scott Cardle was done in round 2. He had no power on his punches left. So Ritson just said he could walk. He was walking through him in round 2 and just put him to sleep. And he wobbled him. He didn't put him to sleep, but he shook him up so bad. Like every punch Ritson was landing was making Cardle falter in the second round. It was pretty shocking.
But it was amazing how Cardle came in and launched that attack on him, in the first 30 seconds.
It was a good attack. It was a good attack, but it was the wrong tactics. Scott Cardle can box on the back foot well. He really should have tried to frustrate Lewis Ritson. He should have boxed and tried to steal rounds. Trying to trade with a guy like Lewis Ritson, who has proven his knockout power in the last 2 fights in a row, is a terrible idea. Because he's got momentum. He knows he can knock people out right now. And you're going to stand there and trade with him. It was always... Scott Cardle needed to box on the back foot to win that fight. And he chose the wrong tactics, in my opinion. But great knockout win from Ritson. He carries on his impressive form. He's looking great. He's looking real good.
It was good. I was impressed the way he finished him off so quickly. I was watching. I'm thinking, we're looking at a guy who's getting wobbled, and then out of nowhere he just comes and destroys him.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was a very impressive performance. What next? He says he wants to defend the British again so that he owns it outright, and he'll be doing that in June, I believe. That's what he said in his post-fight interview. And then he wants to look for the European title. So I like his progress because we've got to remember he's only 14-0. So get him the British outright, then move him on to the European. And if he wins that and does well with that title, he won't be far off a world title shot himself.
Who was there in the British rankings or around the world top 50 he could fight, sort of people who were near the end, in that division? In
the lightweight division? Well, he's already ranked.
It's tough, isn't it? It's tough, isn't it?
It is really tough because here's the rankings, right? Luke Campbell, Anthony Crawler, Lewis Ritson, Ricky Burns, Sean Dodd, Paul Highland Jr. So you could put him in with Ricky Burns, but he's already ranked higher than Ricky Burns, right? You could put him in with Anthony Crawler or Luke Campbell.
Yeah,
but he could.
But I think that would be risky because Luke Campbell's on the verge.
Yeah,
Campbell wouldn't take the fight. and Corolla wouldn't, because they both put themselves in good positions. So why would they
Agreed.
want to risk that? And Luke
I
Campbell
agree.
will probably win a world title, and then you also got Josh Taylor's division up, isn't he? I forget.
Yeah, he's the division up. But
Oh, sorry, I don't know.
so you could have a defence against Sean Dodd, be a good defence. A defence against Paul Hyland Jr., Andy Townend,
But Ricky Burns would be the most.
Cardle. I know he's just beat Scott Cardle, but you could have the rematch for a defence.
Ricky Burns would be a good fight, but Ricky won't take the fight. I mean, I'd love to see it, because I think Ritson could do a job on him.
I tell you what, do you remember that fight a few weeks ago where Atif Shafiq beat Lee Appleyard?
I do, yeah.
Atif Shafiq wouldn't be a bad third defence. Good British level fight.
I mean, if he... Yeah, that would be good. I mean, after that, then he has to, like you say, he has to go up to European level, bypass 100%. The Ricky Burns and the Corollas,
Yeah,
how old is he now? 24? 25?
Ritson, I'll go back a second.
He's about 24.
24, yeah.
So really, they could build him another year, couldn't they? Really,
yeah, for sure. He's got time. He's definitely got time. Don't want to...
Beltran would be a good fight for him, but obviously somebody will beat him before he gets to Beltran.
Probably. I like Beltran, but I don't think he's the best at that division. I think he's a weak champion a little bit. I think he should have been champion earlier in his career, but that's a discussion we've already had. But yeah, that was a great fight for Lewis Ritson, a great win. It'll be very interesting to see who his next defence is against. I really hope that that fight was shown on HBO too, because if it was just the Dillian Whyte fight, then they missed a couple of, they missed some great fights if they only got the main event. But we will have to find out from some American viewers what they got shown on HBO. So I think, imagine the exposure for Lewis Ritson if he got to fight on HBO.
Great.
I hope that fight was on HBO. I hope they showed it, because he's coming for that lightweight division. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
You've got to admit, with the champions we've got in the lightweight division, pretty amazing fighters in that division.
Sure, there's some top
guys,
fighters, but he's coming for him. I'm pretty sure of it. You've got Linares, you've got Robert Easter Jr., Luke Campbell is ranked
ranked Lomachenko coming up.
Yes, but obviously he's still technically a 130 fighter right now, but he is moving up. Gervonta Davis, Beltran, Comey, Fortuna, Corolla. There's some great fights to be made in that division. And so,
I mean, I personally, like I say, would build him for another year or two.
For sure. Get him that European title, man. That's what I would do.
Then within 2 years, come 2020, he'll be ready for a world title by then.
Who's the geezer that beat Luke Campbell?
Is it Mendez or Mendieta? Mendez, isn't it?
I can't. Here it is.
It's Mendez.
Ivan Mendy.
Mendieta or something.
Ivan Mendy. I found it here.
Mendy.
He'd be a decent fight for Ritson at some point. Maybe European title sort of fight.
That'd be a good fight. How far do you think he's from Campbell? Not a million miles away, is he?
He's quite far away from Campbell, in my sense, because he didn't have the same sort of amateur pedigree Campbell had. And Campbell has had 2 tough losses, but I think those losses were good for him in a sense, that he's learned.
Oh, they made him a better fighter.
Apparently he's looking to fight Ivan Mendy as well to get that win back, which I've always said he should do. I think you should always avenge your losses if you can, and I think he probably.
I want to see Campbell go straight for Beltran, because I think he'll destroy Beltran. I really do.
It's a great fight. I think he'd win. I think it's a close fight. I mean, right now he's ranked 3rd in the world, so he shouldn't fuck about. He should, if you can get a title,
fight for a world title. Don't mess about. Go for a world title.
Yeah, I agree. Right, that brings us on to the main event. Now, this was a great fight. This was a cracker. I
loved it.
I've got to be honest, though. Lucas Browne disappointed me. He turned up in bad shape. He was slow and plodding in there. And BG's analysis of the weigh-in was spot on. shout out to Boxing Gossip. Go and subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. Probably the best British boxing coverage there is out there, and world coverage as well, to be fair. He said Lucas Browne looked fat and he's going to be slow and plodding in this fight. And he was right. He was spot on. Lucas Browne turned up out of shape, like he just turned up for a paycheck. And Dillian Whyte sort of broke him down, really, over the rounds. Outboxed him, broke him down, stopped him in stunning fashion. What a fuck. I didn't think Dillian Whyte had that in him, to be honest with you.
None of us did.
It's interesting because Dillian Whyte came in heavy for this fight, 18 stone 2. And so I think he knew Lucas Browne was going to be heavy and he wanted to keep some of his weight on to add to the power of his shots. And I think it was a very smart tactical decision. It seemed to work out very well. He lined that shot up beautifully, and Browne, I've never seen somebody go to sleep so quick. Well, I have, but not recently. That was one of the more stunning knockouts in recent memory.
Tell you what, I was shocked when I saw the highlights of it before I watched the whole fight. I was like thinking, no way. I expected it to go to points. We said it would all be points, didn't we? That's why
I said either a Browne knockout or Whyte by points. I didn't see Whyte winning this by knockout because his last few performances. But I think he said some stuff in this post-fight interview that's very telling and honest and true. He's not taken his conditioning seriously in the past, and now he's going up to a university to do all of his, sports science and conditioning, and he's not overtraining, and he's not, building up too much muscle, and he's not training the wrong way anymore. And I think that showed in this fight a lot. He looked a lot better than he has done in the past. He was so bad in that. Who was the last fight he had?
Oh God, I've got such a bad memory.
Helenius. Yeah. He looked so bad in that Helenius fight that it was easy to think Lucas Browne was going to cause Whyte a lot of problems, but he didn't cause Whyte really any problems, did he?
But can we give Browne a bit of credit for taking the fight, given that he'd only had one fight in 2 years? But have you noticed a pattern here? Helenius was out of shape. Browne was out of shape. It's like Eddie Hearn has a sixth sense for these things. The matchmaking he's doing is really good for Browne.
It's spot on. I've got to say, Browne was always going to be out of shape for this fight, and it was Browne's own fault. He waited and waited for that Parker fight that was never going to happen because Parker was always going to fight AJ. And so he waited and waited and got out of shape, and he didn't fight anybody. He should have had an 8-rounder.
He had one fight against Andrew Greeley a year ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If he'd have had an 8-rounder 6 months ago, he'd have at least been in some shape for this fight. But to take that long out of the ring, it was always going to be a very hard ask for Lucas Browne.
If he was in the shape he was when he fought Ritson and Shagov, it would have been a different fight. He still would have lost, but it would have been a different fight.
I want to be fair to Lucas Browne, but it doesn't half make you wonder, does it? It's a bit like Erkan Tepe at this point, where as soon as he's not on the substances, his body shape changes to even more fat, and he can't throw a punch, and he's got no timing, and he's out of rhythm. What's that about, man? Is that some?
But he's still a decent enough fighter.
Related issue, though. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. But the problem with this fight is that a lot of people will now think that Dillian Whyte is some sort of elite heavyweight when he's not. We know he's not. This isn't going to change my mind. I still think he's, a good fighter, but he's not elite. Should we be honest about it?
In the concept, in the context of today's heavyweight scene, he is elite.
Well, that's shocking, isn't it? Really? Do you think that's shocking a little bit?
Sure, but
he's a good fighter.
Look, here's the top of the division, right? Anthony Joshua, elite. Wilder, elite. Povetkin, elite. Pulev, not elite. Not quite elite. A step below elite. Luis Ortiz,
think Pulev,
a step below elite. Dillian Whyte, a step below elite. Fair enough. World class, but not elite.
Would beat him. Would beat Whyte.
No.
You know that. Yeah,
no, I disagree. I think Ortiz is about as slow as Browne is, and I think Whyte probably do the same job on him.
You know what? What would Whyte do against Wilder? I don't think it goes 5 rounds.
I
If he
think
gets in there, Wilder, he gets knocked out.
I think if he goes in there with Wilder, either of them could get knocked out, especially after that knockout of Browne. I think either of them.
Oh yeah, it was.
Out.
But I think people are jumping the gun a little bit. You know, people are getting, getting so hyped over the knockout. Remember, he beat a 39-year-old man who'd had 1 fight in 2 years. You know, let's not
Sure. But let's put it this way: how do you think he'd do against Kubrat Pulev?
I think he'd beat Pulev. I think he'd possibly knock him out after that.
Then he would then move up into the top 4 in the world.
Pulev hasn't got that sort of power that Whyte's got.
That's what I mean. So, look, below Whyte, you have Joseph Parker, who's a world champion, and he's ranked below Dillian Whyte. That's poor rankings, I think, on BoxRec's behalf. I think Joseph Parker should be above Whyte. He's got better wins than Whyte.
He should be above Pulev because Pulev hasn't fought anybody. Really?
I don't ask me how Kubrat Pulev stays there. He stays there by not fighting anybody. I think that's what his trick is.
It's the only reason.
So, he fought Kevin Johnson in 2017.
Samuel Peter.
Yeah. But then, then after he beat Kevin Johnson, Johnson went on to beat Pianetta, but then he went on to beat Peter Milas.
But so funny you say that at this point. Funny fact, which I'll come to near the end of the show. Recently, Kevin Johnson was knocked out.
I know he was by a guy called Peter Milas, a 22-year-old Croatian who is so unheard of. His picture is not even up on BoxRec yet.
But another interesting fact: Kevin Johnson has a world title shot against Michael Graham for the World Boxing Confederation's title.
Yeah, that's not really. I'm not bothered by that. That's fair enough. But Jesus Christ, I'm impressed that. How do you get a world title shot coming off a loss?
Oh God, and one that's ripping off the WBC, World Boxing Confederation.
Yeah, that's funny. So it's the WBC belt, but not the real WBC.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. That is funny.
It's not even on BoxRec. I saw it on boxing.
They'll probably get sued for that at some point. But yes, so Dillian Whyte's got some good fights ahead of him now. He's number 1 in the WBC, I believe.
He is, yeah.
So that means that at some point the WBC will order the Wilder-Whyte fight. Sometimes
you don't think Wilder would ever vacate that belt, do you?
No.
And then say if Joshua offered him a fight, a voluntary fight, and he dropped say if it was the WBC said, right, you either defend against Whyte or you strip the title, and if not, then you fight.
No, I think the only reason Wilder will get the AJ fight is because he's got the WBC belt. If he can't keep that belt, then why would AJ bother fighting?
He wouldn't.
AJ would just rather fight Dillian Whyte again because he knows it's a fight he can win.
But do you get the impression that Dillian Whyte is just basically being fed to Wilder to soften him up for when he fights Joshua?
No, I don't get that impression. I get the impression that Eddie Hearn would very much like Dillian Whyte to beat Wilder because then he can make the unification for 4 belts and
be more money.
He gets to control both fighters and therefore make double the money. Yeah, I imagine that he would rather Whyte fights AJ, but I also think that it is a good idea, business-wise, to go and find out how powerful Wilder really is. And so I personally, if that is what Eddie Hearn is doing, I don't think it's a bad tactic because Dillian Whyte still gets a world title shot.
But would you say if they went the other way, went the WBA route and took a Char on if that fight was viable, if he could offer Char $1 million,
Char or a
fight, and then he could then he'd be the mandatory for the WBA Super, which is another way of getting to Joshua, and it's a quicker way of getting to Joshua.
It is.
And then Joshua would fight.
It is a quicker way, but from what I understand, being the WBA regular doesn't get you mandatories against the doesn't necessarily get you a mandatory against the WBA Super. On top of that, right? Because if that was true, then surely we'd be hearing about Manuel Char or Fresequendo versus Anthony Joshua. And I have not heard anybody ask for that fight.
They
Please,
could create
God,
an
no.
interim belt for him, couldn't they? If he fought a top contender, they could give it for an interim belt. Then that way he would,
But I'd rather
WBC interim.
I'd rather they
I could see
more belts, but the WBC might well do it. Yes.
I could see them creating an interim. If they say, right, if you fight Joshua, then we're going to make you champion in recess. Not champion in recess, but we're going to make you have an interim. We're going to have an interim title fight.
It's possible. The WBC.
I hope we don't.
So they could do that. My personal opinion is that I would like to see Dillian Whyte versus Wilder very much. I don't actually buy the. I obviously don't buy the Anthony Joshua hype train completely, but I really do not buy Deontay Wilder. I don't buy his boxing ability still. I buy that he's got power. Okay, believe that. But we've seen in fights, relying on one shot can be a problem if you can't land that shot. And so I do wonder about Wilder if he's the real deal. And I think if he struggles to beat Dillian Whyte, I don't think he has proved he is. He's proved
he beat Ortiz.
That's power.
That proves
it. No, it doesn't prove much, really. It proves he has power, but we knew he had power. He still looked terrible, shaky-wise boxing. He still does.
But he's made a career. But he's made a career out of being a terrible boxer with not a lot of skill. But the fact that he's got those wins, that right hand, if he didn't have that right hand, he wouldn't be very good.
Look, I've got to give Wilder some credit. His boxing ability's got better over the years. But he still does things that he lives up to his name. He swings when he gets people hurt. He goes wild. And that cost him in round 7. It almost got him knocked out.
I know.
So that's what I mean. That's what I say. I'm not saying he hasn't got power. Clearly he's got power. Everyone can see that. But how would he do against Tyson Fury? Would he land?
I think he'd lose. No, I think he'd lose.
Land that power? Because I don't think he would. How would he do against Huey Fury? Would he land that power?
I think he would against Fury, but I don't
How
think
does he do against Caballero?
I think he'd knock Caballero out.
How?
He'd get to it.
You can't stay away. He might get to him, but at some point that is going to stop working. There will be a fight. There will be a fight where he doesn't land his knockout. That happens to boxers, and that's what I mean. He doesn't look to win rounds.
I know, because he hasn't got the ability to. Really, I don't think.
Ortiz was way up on the scorecards at the time of that stoppage. If Wilder didn't stop him, he loses that fight on points. And that can happen against a slow, older guy like Ortiz. What's going to happen?
But when you've got that power...
Sure, but when you've got that power...
Don't tell me, Joshua... The only person I think can stay away from him and outbox him really badly would be Fury. Fury and Joshua would be the only two people. Yeah, Tyson would be the only guy, really, that could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't know about that. I think there's a few guys who can do it. I think anybody who's a really skilled back foot boxer would cause him some serious, serious problems.
But the problem is, as soon as you feel that power, you're gone. It's over. You could be winning a fight by 8, 9 rounds. As soon as you get that power on your chin, you're done for.
Sure,
nobody can really stay away from him for 12 rounds. You can't.
You can though. It's been done. No, you can.
Stavern did it.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Stavern did it in the first fight. I don't think Wilder was looking for the knockout in that fight, but the point is there are fights he's going to have where he can't land a knockout. That will happen, whether it's frustration, hit good defense, or just good blocking from the other guy. There will come a time where relying on one punch knockout power makes you lose. And
can I be honest? I can see him because he's got 39 fights. If he chooses to fight people who are not that great, he could beat Rocky Marciano's record. I don't think he will, but he could.
He could.
It's a real possibility. He could. Yeah,
he could, but it wouldn't be respected, I don't think.
No, it wouldn't. But I think from the Ortiz fight, for me, I've got a lot more respect for him since he beat Ortiz. I see him as a real threat.
I've got some respect for him, but I still wonder about his boxing ability. I don't rate it that highly. And if you can get beat on points by Ortiz over the 10 rounds that happened, there's a lot of guys in the heavyweight division that are a lot more skillful than Luis Ortiz, a lot faster, a lot slicker. Yeah. And so that is a concern for me. That
do you think he would have beaten a newer Ortiz from, say, 5 years ago? I think it would have been a different fight.
I think the problem is Wilder would have been 5 years younger, and he would have been really, really wild. And so, no, I think 5 years ago, Ortiz would have rocked him. But it didn't happen 5 years ago, it happened now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away Wilder's win. It was a great win, a great performance over a guy a lot of people rate as an elite heavyweight. I don't personally see Ortiz as an elite heavyweight. I think he was
the thing that hurts Wilder is that he didn't beat a real elite fighter to win that belt. That's what a lot of people can't get out of their heads. The fact that he only beat Stavern, who was obviously, wasn't a top decent fighter, really.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue the same for Anthony Joshua, but then he went and fought Vladimir Klitschko as well to sort of solidify his championship status. So that kind of helped a lot. I agree. I agree in many ways. It's a great fight. I really want to see the Dillian Whyte Wilder fight.
So do I.
It's going to be a long time since. It's going to be a long time before AJ can fight Wilder anyway, because AJ's got to fight Parker and then he's got to recover. You'd be looking at October, November, December for that fight. So there's a long time.
I think Wilder just wants to get in there, Joshua, and if it came down to it, we got to ask the question: if he was offered £20 million or £15 million to fight Joshua, but there's no WBC belt on the line. And Joshua wouldn't take the fight, but Wilder would jump at it.
Sure.
He would take the money over the belt, wouldn't he? Sometimes you got to.
I imagine so, but I don't think he gets that sort of money without the belt. I don't think Eddie Hearn gives a shit about Deontay Wilder if he didn't have that WBC belt. I think
he wants that WBC belt.
Deontay Wilder's interesting because he talks good and he can fight well and he looks the part and it can help sell the fight. But I think Eddie Hearn would be just as interested if Miller had that WBC belt or if Whyte had that WBC belt. But I don't think he really cares.
Let's not forget Joseph Parker might cause one of the biggest upsets.
That's something that nobody's talking about other than the New Zealand fans. It could well happen.
And it wouldn't surprise them if it did happen.
Craziest shit has happened in boxing. I'll be honest with you, I would be a little bit surprised because Parker's last few performances versus AJ's last few performances, I would say AJ's the fighter with more momentum behind him. But, weirder shit has happened in boxing.
But Parker hasn't had the breaks. Hasn't had the breaks that Joshua's had. He hasn't had the big fights. He's won a belt, but he hasn't had big defining fights.
Technically, he's had bigger fights than I would say. He's had bigger fights in terms of boxing pedigree than Anthony Joshua has. He beat Andy Ruiz Jr., Takam, Hughie Fury, and
Joshua. Yeah.
Those are pretty good.
No, Razvan Konju. Some guy we'd never heard of.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but the point is, Andy Ruiz Jr., Hughie Fury, they're not bad fights, right? The problem is...
What I'm saying is that Joshua's had the big fights hand in his lap where easier, whereas what Parker had to work himself to mandatory to get a title shot, whereas Joshua just got a voluntary, won the title against some, a guy who won the fight because of an injury. So really,
I somewhat agree and disagree. But AJ had to work himself into mandatory position for IBF as well.
He did, but what I'm saying is Joshua, Parker didn't have the promotional muscle that Joshua had. That Olympic medal.
that's got a lot to do with the fact that Joseph Parker's from New Zealand, which has a tiny population. It's hard to get the sort of promotional backing when you have such a small audience to broadcast your fights to. Dimitrenko was the other guy he beat.
Pretty easily.
Yeah, he beat him easily. It was good. That was a good win. That was his last good win, in my opinion. He looked a bit shaky against Andy Ruiz Jr. He looked all right against Kajanu, but not brilliant. And he looked pretty terrible against Huey Fury.
But
so
you've got to admit, he's lucky to still have that belt in some regard, isn't he, really, when you look at it?
In some ways, yeah. I think Andy Ruiz Jr. fought a close fight with him. That was a majority decision. You know, one judge gave it to Andy Ruiz, two judges gave it to Parker. Same with Huey Fury. That was a majority decision. Close fight.
The only difference is that obviously Joshua, I don't think stamina is anywhere near as good as Parker's. I don't think it's as good.
I think
if it comes down to,
I think it's going to be better this fight.
Be close.
Have you seen the shape of Anthony Joshua?
Oh, he looks in great shape. Yeah.
He looks like he's trimmed down about a stone.
He's lost a stone and a half or something.
Yeah, he looks great. I think his stamina is going to be better than it's ever been before because.
But it needs to be for this, you know. That muscles hasn't done him any favours.
It's not hurt him. It's not killed his career, but it could have done. In that Vladimir Klitschko fight, when he was rocked, I did not think he would recover because of his muscles.
Do you know who he reminded me of in that fight? He reminded me of when Tim Witherspoon knocked out Frank Brunno in the 11th round when Frank Brunno was winning.
Yeah.
I see vulnerabilities of that in him the same as what were with Frank. I really do. But I think he's got a slightly better chin. You know.
He's obviously got a better chin, no doubt.
He has, yeah.
But it's the stamina that's the question, for sure.
But I was looking at that highlights of Tyson Bruno. I was thinking, imagine an elite Tyson fighting a Joshua. Obviously, Joshua, I don't think will be able to take those punches that Tyson launched, but I think Joshua would have beaten Tyson. That's what I believe, because he'd be too big.
I think, yeah, my opinion always is when you compare Mike Tyson to the modern heavyweights, you have to remember that
20 years ago,
these guys are fucking giants now.
And but when you look at the replays and you look at Tyson, but Frank Bruno,
cruiserweight in this
but
era.
Frank Bruno was 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", the same height as Joshua.
I don't.
I
don't disagree, but Frank Bruno was a bit lumbering and slow.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he wasn't as good. He's a bit like a Joe Joyce.
Yeah, he's not. He wasn't as athletic as Joshua is. So,
but anyway, we'll stop the comparisons.
Well, it's interesting. It is interesting. Anything can happen in this Joseph Parker fight. Every belt other than the WBC is on the line. Oh no, not the ring either. You haven't got the ring belt and you haven't got the WBC, but you've got the IBF, the IBO, the WBA, and the WBO. That's a lot of titles.
So really, Joshua is the number one, as we all know, currently.
Currently, could change overnight.
You know, funny things have happened. I just think this
Parker can go from 7-1 in one 36-minute period. Hell, he could do it in 3 minutes. You never know.
What I'm hoping this fight turns into a Riddick Bowe Holyfield type effect, but I don't think it will. I don't think you're going to see much toe-to-toe. I think it's going to be a technical fight, don't you? I don't think you're going to see a lot of toe-to-toe stuff in this one.
I actually think you're going to see Joshua do something that
we haven't seen.
Very peculiar. And I don't know how it's going to work out, but I think it's going to try and box on the back foot and slip and counter. I think that's going to be the tactics. And I've never seen Joshua fight going backwards, so it's going to be
really... But we know he can fight. He's got the skill to be able to adapt, but recently with the fights he's had, he just fighting and being toe-to-toe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been all forward motion. But Parker is not going to stop coming forward. Even if Joshua...
Oh, he's not. 12 rounds.
And that's why I think we're going to see Joshua fight on the back foot early. He's going to lead with the jab, get the jab established, and actually try and outbox Parker. Because I think if you look at them, right, you'd have to say that whilst Parker has the faster combos when he stood still and can plant his feet, Joshua probably has the better skills as a boxer.
But
and
what
that's
will hurt
what I would
Parker
lean
is
towards.
Parker's got no defence. His defence ain't that good. If he's walking forward throwing combinations and Joshua and he's going to eat punches, you can't eat punches against someone like Joshua. You can't do it because he won't last. Do you think that's his biggest vulnerability?
I think so. I think what's going to happen, this is my sad prediction for the fight. Joshua's going to back up for quite a few rounds, 3 or 4 rounds. He's going to catch Parker coming in, wobble him a bit, jump on him, maybe not even hurt him much, but the ref's going to stop it. As soon as a flurry of 10 punches lands from Joshua, fight's over.
Definitely, yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to go for round 9. I think it goes round 9 or round 10.
I'd say, yeah, round 6, 7, 8, something like that. That's my prediction.
But if Joshua won it in 3 rounds, we wouldn't be surprised, would we?
If either man won it in 3 rounds, it wouldn't be that shocking. Both guys, I think both of these men on their day could knock out almost any other man on the planet. And so when you look at it like that, either guy could go to sleep on the first punch.
I mean, Parker, for me, I'd say this is close. This is going to be closer than what people think. The rounds will be tight. The first 6, 7 rounds are going to be tight as hell.
Well, how about all this Wilder talk, right? What's that going to do?
Forget the Wilder talk.
No, but exactly. What's that going to do for Joshua? Is he focused?
It's going to put him off. I'm not sure he is.
Is it? Because the whole of Britain isn't even really talking about Joseph Parker. If you've noticed, he has been largely dismissed in this fight, and that is worrying. That is a poor decision.
What, this could be a 50-50 fight. Seriously.
At the moment, I would make
60-40.
55-45 Joshua. That's how close I think it is. I think it's a very close fight. I think Joshua should win, could win, but it doesn't mean he will win. Parker can win this fight. It's a great fight for that reason.
This fight is happening sooner than I thought it was going to.
Sure, I didn't expect them to take this.
Not in 2018. Not for another cut. I thought it would happen in a couple of months.
Here's why they took it, right? It was either fight Parker for a belt, unify, or fight Wilder and unify. Nothing else was really going to cut it. And so I think they looked at the options and thought Parker's
Let's fight for more belts. Let's get more belts.
Yeah, and Parker's an easier win than Wilder is. Like, definitely. Parker doesn't have that same knockout Wilder has. No way. So, yeah, I mean, that's the truth of it, isn't it? It's still a great fight, but I think that's why some people are a little bit down on this fight. It's because it feels like it's the lesser of 2 great fights.
It's a great fight. People want to see Wilder, but I think this would be a better fight than Joshua Wilder. That's what I think. I think this will be a better fight, but I think Wilder, Joshua, America, UK, it's a bigger event, isn't it? That's the But like you say, I think you say Eddie Hearn is secretly hoping that Wilder doesn't make it to the Joshua or Parker fight. He's hoping he doesn't make it.
Oh, definitely. He would love Whyte to beat him. He would love, he'd love Povetkin.
Then it's easier to make an in-house fight, isn't it?
He'd love Povetkin to be called the mandatory for Wilder's belt, but unfortunately, Povetkin looks like he's going to be called the mandatory for Joshua's belt, unless David Price has something to say about it, but I very much doubt that.
Could you imagine that if that happened?
What, David Price, #1 in the division?
I'd tell you what, that would be shocking if he beat. Well, it's not going to happen, sure.
He's not even in the top 20, David Price, and he could beat the #3 ranked heavyweight in the world.
That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Then his next fight, he goes and loses to someone like Dave Allen.
Apparently,
that's the sort of thing.
David Price is the 5th best heavyweight in Britain, apparently.
Oh, God. That's desperate, isn't it?
It goes Joshua, Whyte, Chisora, Hughie Fury, David Price.
Oh, God.
Nathan Gorman, Sam Sexton, Daniel Dubois, Gary Cornish, Nick Webb, Cash Ali, Joe Joyce, David Allen, Tom Little.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's not good.
Well, most of those fighters would beat David Price.
Sam Sexton wouldn't. Nathan Gorman probably would. Daniel Dubois
Allen,
would
Allen.
knock him out in a round. Gary Cornish wouldn't. Nick Webb probably would. Joe Joyce would. Dave Allen might. That's a tough fight. That's a good fight, actually. I'd like to see that.
We'll do another show on the undercard later in the week.
Yes.
On the Thursday, about the card from top to bottom. Then we'll have to do a whole show on it.
For sure, man. Sounds good to me. We've pretty much covered everything for this week. It was a great week's boxing for the British guys, and we'll do some build up for the AJ Parker fight. I'm sure we will.
To do it. Okay. Shout out to Baron Singh because he watches.
Yes, big shout out to Baron Singh and anybody else who tunes in and likes the videos. That helps a lot.
Tom Mendola as well.
Oh yeah, big up Tom. I speak to him on Facebook sometimes. He's safe as fuck.
Good guy, Tom.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool as fuck. I enjoy talking boxing with him. Please leave comments if you have anything you feel we missed this weekend, guys. If you have any fights, American fights that you feel we should cover, then we can take a look at those and maybe do a video on it. And we will probably be doing a video after the weigh-in for Parker and AJ, because
is that the Friday?
Depending on what the weigh-in looks like, it might, sometimes weigh-ins mean nothing, especially in the heavyweight division. But sometimes, like the Browne and Whyte fight, you could take a lot from that weigh-in. So
because it's Easter, obviously we'll probably do a show on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday.
Yes, good idea.
And we can do the show in the afternoon or something. Because I'll be at home, then we can do it in the afternoon and around, so most people will be at home. So
yeah, they will on Easter Monday. That's perfect.
So we can do
it. Time. Yep. Nice one, man. Nice one. Well, I'll catch you next weekend, and what a fight we have next weekend. Wow.
Are we still live?
Yeah. Peace out, everyone. I'm stopping the broadcast now.